even once you've had all the success, it's always just you versus yourself. And that never goes away. And it's so easy to let things snowball out of control if you let them. Like you've got to have, systems in place to keep yourself accountable, keep yourself safe.
Welcome back to Master of Five, everyone. Today we're in Ohio and I'm with a good friend, Tim Grittani, and we're gonna be talking about the reality of trading and how sometimes you can see traders come up in the game and for quite some time, sometimes for a while, and do well, but then all of a sudden disappear. Can you share a little bit of light on that?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, it almost happened to me with my string of big losers in the middle of my career. But, unfortunately, I witnessed it with a friend of mine who was, we were trading in a Google Hangout together, almost every day, just chatting, comparing notes. And there were really some key differences I picked up on between how I survived, that rough period and what happened to them. One of the biggest things, of course, it starts with big losers, not cutting losses. There were some of those. And there was the big difference that, I was risking a much lower percent of my account than he was. Yeah. So, the big losses for me, it was there goes a month of work. For him, it was a much larger chunk. It was there goes 20% of my account. But even despite all that success and all that growth, I think that a bigger part of the problem was the mental damage from, some of those big losses, the shaken confidence, the questioning everything about the plans. It kind of shifted a lot more into watching him take, lots of small winners because he was getting out so quick, and, then still more larger losers where it's they're going to run a little bit further against him, basically letting the losers work and letting the winner, covering the winners as soon as you're in the profit,
100%.
And that's a mental problem. That is 100% a mental problem, or, lack of a good system to keep you accountable. Yeah. But one of the biggest blows I think that I saw there that really snuck up on, him, and I think sneaks up on a lot of traders. Sure. Taxes. People don't think about taxes, when they are having all that initial success. And so, it's one thing to say, oh, I've made $500,000, but then you got to think about what you owe to the IRS and be prepared to withdraw that from your account. So, in this one specific case, it was just kind of the perfect storm of all this stuff hitting at once, oh, crap, I got to pull money out for taxes, and oh, dang, there's a big loss. And then, just mental confidence being blown because it's it feels like yesterday my account was doing great and here I was on top of the world, and now all of a sudden what went wrong? And it just spirals so fast. And I think also what helped me in those situations was my willingness to step away and, get back on track.
You're really well known for that.
Right, and just refresh. And I've seen some people say they don't think that's the best idea, but I think, know yourself. For me, taking time off was so key because it really allowed me to just reset mentally, reset emotionally, and I could come back to the market, after a week off or so, and just get back to doing what I had been doing that I was successful at. I had experienced the flip side of the coin where I would just try to stick through it and keep grinding, and I would just not be myself, and I'd be trading outsized, I'd be slow to stop. It's a lot better to just prevent that versus realize it later. Oh man, look at all these mistakes I'm making. That can get costly quick.
Hey, we wouldn't be able to do these face-to-face interviews if it wasn't for our sponsor, Cobra Trading. So if you can just give them a few seconds of your time, we'd really appreciate it. Cobra Trading is the go-to broker for day traders and short sellers. And I'm not the only one saying this. In fact, Benzinga awarded Cobra Trading as the go-to broker for short selling. They have a heavy focus on direct market access order routing, so you have the fastest execution. They have some of the best locate prices and availability. They also have amazing customer service. I've experienced many different brokers, and it's why I use them every single day and why I'm proud to have them as our sponsor. Sign up now by clicking the Be the Trader referral link below and earn 1 free month of software with Cobra and 25% off all commissions. Now let's get back to the show. And what's crazy is I want people to understand that this is someone that you were talking to regularly. And then someone that kind of learned something that works because they made good money.
Right, absolutely.
And they found success.
Yeah.
And then even having someone, because people are listening to me interview all types of traders, and they're like, how do I get them to mentor me? How do I get them, how do I get them to teach me? If they taught me, I'll be successful. But that's not really the case, because trading's so hard and so unique that sure, I could, like, let's just say I sat with you for months and that guy, like, which that guy did, right? He learned from you. And from that, like, I'm sure, even though y'all talk regularly, that still happened.
Right. Yeah. And like, of course, there's things at the time that weren't perfect about my style. There's still things that aren't perfect about my style. But it really drove home to me the fact that trading, even once you've had all the success, it's always just you versus yourself. And that never goes away. And it's so easy to let things snowball out of control if you let them. Like you've got to have systems in place to keep yourself accountable, keep yourself safe. Like one idea that I've been hearing about lately that I really like is the risking a max % of your account per trade. And then, maybe wiring out here and there. But I like that because, you can basically calculate your risk or ruin. Like Brian Lee talks about this.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. He does.
And I think he teaches it really well. So he's somebody you might want to learn that from because, if you know your stats, if you know your odds, you can get that risk or ruin basically down to zero. Whatever ruin means for you.
100%. And the fact is, you also said that the difference between you two is that he'd keep going at it, right? Even and his confidence started to go down and things started to hit him. And that confidence really stuck out to me because there's traders out there who, and I'm sure you hear it all the time, they'll be like, man, I know it works. I can do this. Like I know the strategy, but yet every time I start to execute, I just fumble, or I take it too soon, or I don't take the trade and I hesitate, and then I take it later when it's way too far up, and now it's risk reward is against me. Like that confidence, I think is really a key part that separates a lot of traders from other great traders at any point in time in their career.
Absolutely, yeah, and we all have our ups and downs in confidence. It's probably more tied to performance than it should be. Like we really should be able to just trust the law of big numbers and say like, doesn't matter what I do today, doesn't matter what I do this week, like over the course of years, this is going to be profitable for me.
Does confidence for you at your stage still sometimes can waver here and there?
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I've gotten better about saying like, like when I do place a breakout trade, for example, these days, I'm not trading as much, but like I still have the confidence to say like, okay, I see all these factors aligning. I think this trade is in my favor. I'm going to pull the trigger on it. And I'm getting better at like, detaching from the, whether the trade won or whether the trade lost and what the end result was. But I'll have those moments where I will, maybe I'll take 3 or 4 losers in a row and be like, oh, our breakout's done. Do I need to rethink how I do breakouts? Stuff like that. And I don't think it's bad to size down or slow down a little bit or back off a little bit. Like if you start to question your setup, if you start to think the market's changing, it's not working, back off a little bit. Maybe go to the data, try to find your answer in the data. Really be honest with yourself, assess what you're doing. Are you taking trades at the appropriate trigger moments, or are you late for some reason? There's all these ways you can analyze yourself, analyze what you're doing, and just take full advantage.
100%. At the end of the day, I want everyone to understand, you need to rewind this, listen to this again, because every single person is going to deal with this. As you mentioned, like confidence can waver no matter where you're at in your career. Learning to take a step away is something you're well known for and you continue to do. And I think that is a huge strength because like as I'm learning in my own trading, like when I take steps away to come out here to come interview, right? It's huge. Like it feels a huge breath of fresh air. I come back to the market and I'm like, it's weird. It's like you're re-zoned in.
Yeah,
you have a breather.
Focused.
Yeah, and it's like that fear that people have where I don't want to take a step back because like, what if I miss something? Like if you don't take a step back, you won't miss it, but you'll miss the money you lose. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I've always been somebody who has to get burned a few times before I learn a lesson, but I definitely started to see that, the setup could be there, it could be perfect, but if I wasn't in the right headspace, I was going to fumble it.
100%. Well, again, man, look, it's a pleasure having you. If you want to learn more about Tim Grittani, I'm going to have links below to his socials, but again, thanks, brother.
Of course, man.